everyone, Out of All Trades here, and I am back with a book club for The Maltese Falcon by Dashiell Hammett. Next month's book club is the horror book, Horror Store, no E on the end, by Grady Hendrix, and that's going to be October 25th, 3 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. You can be on that live stream with me if you read the book and you ask me to be on the live stream. That one's going to be a little weird because it is somewhat designed to be like a furniture catalog. But all right, so let's talk about Dashiell Hammett's The Maltese Falcon. So my first and for the longest time only experience of The Maltese Falcon was actually having watched the movie starring Humphrey Bogart. And it came out relatively quickly after the book did, because the book was pretty popular for its time. And sort of like when I did Rebecca. Rebecca similarly came out pretty quickly after the book did. And I have to say, I don't think I could have chosen a more offensive to the woke novel than this one. I would say that modern novels setting out with authors setting out to piss off the woke couldn't have done better than The Maltese Falcon. And I think that's hilarious. Like, top of the line. I had never read this book, and that is the funniest thing about having read this book. Because I mean, it if it didn't it has it as someone said to me when I announced that I was doing this book, "Oh, that book has such casual misogyny in it. It's hilarious." And it does. It's like mean to women, mean to fat people, mean to gay men, and honestly, it could only be worse if there was a black person, and there isn't. There is, or like a Jewish person or something, because or Muslim, but I wouldn't say trans because trans people didn't exist when Dashiell Hammett wrote this novel, but it is absolutely hilarious. It is so funny, and partially because there's a chapter called The Fat Man, that is referring to a character, a rich guy who is trying to get the Maltese Falcon. And it's not just that he's referred to as the fat man, it's the actual descriptions of this guy as like the dialogue is playing out between him and other characters, especially Sam Spade. And because throughout the whole thing, Sam, like the narrative describes, it's like, oh, he leaned forward until his giant belly stopped him. He laughed and his jowls moved, and like it's just constantly referring to different aspects of how fat this man is, and it really makes me wonder, because our understanding of what is fat versus what was fat when this novel came out is completely different. Like, I would imagine that back then the fat man was not that fat by our standards. By our standards, he's probably like relatively healthy. Because that was the thing, is that comically fat people used to be what, like, so just not that overweight. They were not that grotesque or ridiculous in how much they weighed. It's just that, like, most people weren't fat. So and I think it is actually probably on point to make him have money, because affluence was much closer tied to being overweight than it is now, because food is so abundant, especially in the United States. So it's actually like much easier to be overweight and not be rich at this point. Hi, Lily. Did you finish food? She, like, came over to stare at me. But other than that, like, there's the I died. I laughed so hard when Sam entered a room and he said, "Where's the queer?" And like referring to Joel Cairo, who was I did this in an audio book format. And the guy who did the voices, who did the narration, he changed his voice to match the actor who played Joel Cairo in the movie, which I thought he did a really good impression of the man. Like, honestly, he was quite impressive in how he captured Joel Cairo. Although that guy's performance of Joel Cairo, although I would bet anything that Joel Cairo's as performed in the movie is not actually what Dashiell Hammett envisioned, because Joel Cairo is effeminate in the book. He's definitely described as such. And like he takes mincing steps and stuff like that. And but the adaptation, that is the most famous adaptation anyway, because of rules that Hollywood had, cut out a lot of the sort of effeminate uh, performative uh, display that Joel Cairo has in the novel. And so instead, he's played more creepy than he is effeminate. He's a lot. Uh, he's definitely, though, effeminate in the novel, and it is pretty intense, even in his dialogue, I would say. Um, and he gets hit a lot, like so much, especially Sam hits him a lot, actually. Um, but it is, besides that, then we have how the women are treated. And there's four women really in the novel. There's Bridget O'Shaughnessy, our damsel in distress slash femme fatale. She's both, actually, which is a really, I think this is the first time that this kind of duplicity has been shown to such a strong extent in a novel, honestly, because I think this is actually one of the most cynical novels I have ever read. Um, and mostly because Sam is quite the cynic himself. And so we have Bridget O'Shaughnessy, who is a consummate actress. She's constantly playing on the men's, like, desire to be the hero. So she constantly plays the damsel, but she's definitely not. And it's actually kind of hard to tell when she's being authentic as a reader. And I think that was on purpose because Sam can't always tell either. And and then there's Sam's secretary, uh, who also seems sort of into him, honestly. So he's played by Humphrey Bogart in the movie, but in the novel, I already knew this from when I took an adaptation course in college. The description of Sam Spade is much more like a golden boy, super handsome man, and Humphrey Bogart obviously does not look like that. So it's kind of hard to take that out of your mind if you've seen the movie first, because Humphrey Bogart does a really good job at presenting the personality of Sam Spade, but not he's not handsome enough to attract all the attention that he does in the story, because the secretary is into him, and then so is his business partner's wife, who is sleeping with Sam Spade. Um, and then there's also the fat man's daughter at one point. We see her, and that scene is really interesting, and also sort of like almost like it's odd because it's way too long. If I'm being perfectly honest, I find this part like a little annoying. He shows up at this address that he thinks Bridget is at, based on a phone call that his secretary took. And when he gets there, instead he finds Gutman, that's the fat guy's daughter, and she is drugged, and drugged with something that Sam had been drugged with before, and then and she's like gonna pass out from this drug. It knocks people out, and then instead he walks her back and forth and back and forth, and we hear her slurred speech. We hear a lot the general mutterings that Sam makes to her to try to keep her awake. And I was the whole time I was like, this is taking too long. Both times that I read the novel this past month, I was like, this part of the novel should have been truncated just because it's annoying. Like, well, I don't understand. Like, I get it after like two lines, and you could have just unseened the rest of it and put it in summary and say that, he did this for a while. But instead it goes on for so long, and I just don't understand why, like, Dashiell Hammett's editor even let it stay as long as it was. I'm questioning the point of keeping all of that text in there, because it is so long. But so, the thing that's, interesting about this is it's a it for a mystery story, it's most mystery novels are like this, but, uh, they're, like, super complex. There's so many players, and so many of them have their own goals, and it's actually at times hard to keep straight how everything is interconnected. And honestly, it's the part about mystery novels that drives me a little crazy, because I feel like by the end I'm like, I don't understand what this person really like did necessarily. and and which is crazy because I read like highly complex novels, but I usually stuff that even messes with the form of the novel itself, and I can follow it. But mystery novels, I'm always like, God, there's too many people, and they all have something they want going on, and I'm just getting bored with it. Which is why you won't see me read mystery novels that often. In fact, Rebecca being was also like a gothic mystery novel, technically. I like better because it's more focused. There's less players involved, and it's just it's not as hard to follow the mystery. And that's the thing though, is that mostly I want to like mystery, but I usually end up not liking the execution. And again, that's the truth with Dashiell Hammett's The Maltese Falcon. Although I have to give it credit for being one of the best MacGuffin stories ever written, because for everyone to want the Maltese Falcon, and it's kind of funny 'cause like, everyone around Sam Spade wants this bird statue, and, uh, and they try to explain, like, whose hands is it in? It's not ever really, like, obvious all the time, but Sam doesn't really want it. Like he's he's not interested in the MacGuffin at all. It really just feels like Sam is trying to move through all of these other people, who some of whom mean him physical harm. Some of them want to use him. Some of them, you know, want him out of the way. But it really comes down to the fact that Sam's just mostly trying to survive this and get through it. But I think the thing that actually motivates Sam is trying to figure out what's going on. Now, he's in the same place as the reader, as opposed to wanting the MacGuffin. He wants to know where it is, what's going on, and that's the only thing that seems to drive him past his cynicism. Because honestly, as a character, I almost feel like Sam Spade doesn't like would not even really want to be there. He gets really frustrated with people very easily. He does not have any hardly any sense of honor, honestly. Like, you could argue that he does at the end, but at the same time there's a bunch of stuff that he does or has been doing that, like, makes his honor questionable. Um so I wouldn't even call him really a hero in the narrative sense. And so by the end of it, we're kind of left with this idea that Sam's cynicism is still it's not like he learned anything like personally. It's not like he grew at all. Instead, like, they try to claim at the end that they have him and Bridget have this conversation, and that they're in love with each other, and I kinda go, "Are you? I don't see evidence to suggest as such. I see that you guys are into each other physically, but you don't even really know each other. Maybe Bridget loves him, maybe because he's more honest about who he is, and but and she thinks he loves her, and he's like, "Maybe I do," and I'm like, "I How could you though? You don't know her." This takes place over a very short period of time, and Sam, is, he's kind of a ladies' man, and I just don't see anything to suggest that he actually does love Bridget. There's, in fact, this point she's missing during the novel, and his secretary is like, "You gotta find her, you gotta find her." She's like really worried about Bridget, and Sam is just sort of like, nah. And like, so it's sort of like, does he? I don't really feel like he loves her because, well, it's not like he's desperate to find her, and so it's like kind of the opposite of what happens towards the end of Rebecca, where I'm like, "Oh, I feel like these 2 people really do love each other." I don't So for them to have this conversation about whether or not they love each other, and them trying to say that, "Ah, yeah, I think we do," I'm sort of like, "No, no, you don't. You absolutely do not love each other." Like, because neither of them is willing to make any sort of sacrifice for the other one. And I think that's part of why I doubt that they do love each other. Um, and also because, like, I didn't see him behave any differently with Bridget than I saw him behave with literally any of the other women. So I don't like he at some point says, "God, these women!" Like, he's like so frustrated with the women in his life, and I don't blame him, honestly, especially Bridget. Bridget is the most frustrating character that he runs across because of the fact that she constantly is, like, acting like he's her hero, but she's also always lying to him, and at one point, like, they met with her lying to him. She starts The novel starts with her coming in and saying her name is something that it is not. It's She gives them a false name, and then uh she tells them a fake story to get them to follow Thursby, this man, and then that night, spoilers, she kills Sam's partner. So so not only does she start by lying to Sam, she also commits murder that same night. And then, so to me, like, I just have a really hard time, like, believing in this short amount of time, with her lying as much as she does, that Sam could possibly love her. Not just because of his cynicism, but because of the fact that he rightly recognizes that she has never been honest with him, which is, to me, a big about who she is. That's the big part, about who she is, not just about what she wants or what's going on in her life, but who she actually is. And I don't mean her name, I mean her character. And so for her to be lying that much, if Sam wasn't cynical, if he was trusting, he still couldn't love her, I think, because she's not real. Nothing she ever presented to him was real. But he is a cynic, and he does catch on to the fact that she's lying to him constantly. So to me, I'm sort of like, there's no way. There was no way if he was trusting, and there's no way that once it's clear he's a cynic. So he cannot love her. And I think he's too cynical to love women who are not dishonest, honestly. And maybe his picker is bad though, because a lot of the like I said, the even his secretary, like I wouldn't say that she's great. She's she's probably the best woman in the novel, like the least awful out of all of them. But it's absolutely clear that Bridget is not the woman you marry and settle down with. And I'm questioning, is Dashiell Hammett trying to make me think that this is some great love affair, like tragic love affair? Or is he making a comment on the idea that uh that they can't love each other? Because in the end, what Sam says is that it doesn't matter if they do, because she's a murderer, which is a fair point. I think Sam's not wrong for saying that and deciding what to do based on that knowledge. It's just, reasonable to not be with a murderer, whether or not you love that murderer. But I just wonder why it's even a question to either of them. I I don't understand why they even have the conversation, because like I said, there's nothing to suggest that they do. So it shouldn't, like, maybe Bridget is trying one last ditch effort, but for it to be our climax makes me think that it's not that it's thematically important. It suggests that it's thematically important to have it be the last real dilemma of the novel, that whether or not they actually love each other. But when it comes to the other stuff, there's the part. There's that part where everyone's in a room together and we're getting our big reveal and our plans over the Maltese Falcon. And it's the fat man, Wilbur, who's the young kid, as narrator often refers to him, Joel Cairo, Bridget, and Sam. They're all in a room together, and Sam has the Maltese Falcon, supposedly. And he says he does. We saw him get what should be the Maltese Falcon, and his secretary currently has it. And they're trying to negotiate. And this scene is really interesting because what happens in it is that Sam wants them to choose somebody in this room to be the fall guy. His name of the chapter is the fall guy. And he's cool, he says, with it being Wilbur, the young man, or Joel Cairo, and that and then at some point like I think it's Joel Cairo says, well, what about Bridget? It could be Bridget. And Sam says, yeah, it totally could be. I'm fine with that too. And and so there's this big, like, conversation, and it comes down to it's going to be Wilbur. And the thing that I notice most about this scene is that I'm sort of like, what would they argue about this, but they don't really come up with a solution that I find satisfactory to this problem. They say that they're going to choose Wilbur, and uh, Sam says if he like Gutfield asks, like, well, what are you suggesting if he tells everybody, like, the truth? And he says, well, we just have him killed. And I was like, first of all, I don't know if Sam is serious about that or not. It's concerning. And then Wilbur wants to fight Sam, but they basically take him down, and he's still alive and everything. And that question though, to me, so say Sam's deal works out and they get to, and this is from a mystery perspective, I'm wondering this, like, what I mean is, like, narratively, like from a writer's constructing and plot kind of perspective. So say for example that Sam's plan works out. They choose Wilbur as a fall guy. They set him up to take the fall with the police and the district attorney. What at at that point he's in, like, either he's on the run because they've suggested that it's him to the cops, or he's in their hands. Like, he could have, if he was on the run, he could have run to them, to the cops, and then given them everything. And if he was on the run, then they couldn't have gotten him killed. If he if he was on if they just physically handed him to the cops and said this is the guy and everything, and that they have enough evidence to suggest that this is the man who killed the three people in the novel, Thursby, Sam's partner, the captain of the La Paloma. My question is like, what is their answer? Like, you would have him killed, but if he's in the hands of the police, how could you have him killed? I I'm like, do you know people, or is Sam just bluffing? And I can't tell. Like, I can't tell what Sam would do. I can't actually tell what Sam's goal would be, like I his end goal, besides getting the money, from Gutman, if he handed over Wilbur. Like, I can't, I from a constructed, like, in the next chapter, what happens is they learn that the Maltese Falcon was that Sam has is a fake, and Wilbur runs out of there. But and then like Joel and Gutman decide to go look for um, the the Maltese Falcon elsewhere. So nothing happens with the police involving those three. But I don't understand, like, what Sam wanted out of his plan, how it would have actually worked. Like, was he gonna hand over Wilbur and then actually tell the truth? Like, I question that, like, pretty strongly, because what if he really did have the Maltese Falcon? What if that really was the end of the search for the Maltese Falcon? And I'm not sure that we get an adequate concept of what would have happened, because I just don't buy that Wilbur wouldn't have been able to tell the police the truth about everything. Um, I don't know how that would have worked out. And also, I kind of question, like, how is he proving to the police now, the way it does work out, that Bridget actually killed his partner? My Because it's just not clear. They spend more time talking about about whether or not they love each other than how he's going to prove anything. I think he's just gonna tell them that she said it, that she did it. And I don't, because he kind of, like, got it out of her. He figured it out, and then he got her to confess. But and that's kind of a thing about a lot of mystery stories, is that it comes down to not proving someone did something, but actually getting them to confess. Almost always it comes down to a confession, not actual evidence. And I prefer the ones that come down to evidence, like, oh, we have all this evidence, and now we're getting a confession. Instead, most of the time in mystery, it seems to me anyway, that they sort of like have, uh, like, maybe some evidence, but not like enough that I would think they would get a conviction out of it. And then they, like, slightly press the the person, and they confess. They're like, "Yes, I did it." And I'm always like, I get that people in the real world confess, but from a narrative perspective, it's kind of like, oh, Okay. I guess we're done. And, part of me wonders, like, half the time with these mystery stories, like, are you just done because you can't think of how much further to go with this? Like, you just wanna reveal things to us now? Like, often that feels like what's going on in these stories, to me anyway, but maybe you guys like mystery better than I do. I might give up on mystery for a while. I mean, mystery novels for although I think Smilla's Sense of Snow is technically a mystery novel, and that's our December book. I've been wanting to read that one for years, though, like, it's been on, like, on my to-do list to read Smilla's Sense of Snow. And also it's winter focused. That's one of the reasons why I chose it. For That's why I chose, Murder on the Orient Express for December last year. Um, but I think I might have to, pull back on mystery novels because I'm finding I'm not really a fan. I like mystery TV shows, but I don't know. I feel like most of the time these hard-boiled detectives are not deep enough for me thematically, like, the characters are not strong enough, and I feel that about this novel too. I just don't it's not to say that, uh, Dashiell Hammett's, uh, writing is bad because, like I said at the beginning, he's a misogynist or whatever, fat phobic, take your pick, of stupid term here. So much as I feel like, oh, that flat characters is just more like normal, for mystery, especially older mystery. And I would say that the most interesting characters in this novel are Sam Spade and Bridget O'Shaughnessy, and I I would have liked even like less characters with more depth, more exploration on those 2. And I it has set the archetype for mystery and for anything to do with private detectives for nearly a century. That everyone has the woman like, it's such a thing in these in novels now that a private detective is in his office, and then a very attractive woman walks in and begs for his help, uh, and and he takes the case. That is the setup, and that comes from this novel. And not every one of them does the thing of making Bridget awful and the detective a cynic. I like it when I've seen like they're not really completely mystery novels, but they're more focused and they stick to those two characters. I've seen it many times at this point, and the guy changes by the end. He becomes more hopeful. Like maybe he's cynical at the beginning or just sort of tired of how all his cases are usually about cheating spouses. And by the end of it though, he's like happy and more hopeful for the future. We get nothing like that from Sam in this book though. I would say that Sam is just maybe more cynical by the end of the novel, if he changes at all. Um, Mostly I don't think he changes though. I think, like, I really do think that one of my biggest issues with this novel is that Sam is the same at the beginning as he is at the end. And and maybe that's what one of the other reasons why I don't buy why they even have the conversation over whether or not they're in love with each other. Because you would think something like that would change you somewhat. Um, uh, I don't know. From an like understand that I'm coming at this from the perspective of crafting a novel, not reality. reality is that no, love does not always change you. I understand that, and that is not the point I'm trying to make. It's just that novels are crafted. They're not reality, and I really don't like it when people treat them like reality, because I expect them to be somewhat meticulous and thought out in how they present ideas, and so not just like plot, but like your characters and the arc of your characters throughout it. And I expect there to be a character arc. I want I desperately want one. Um, and that is part of the reason why probably I will not read another Dashiell Hammett novel, is because I I even I expect it even in novels that are not literary. So, for example, there's a long list of novels that I've done for this series at this point, and one of my favorites is The Magicians. And there is a character arc for Quentin, even though The Magicians is like an like fantasy novel. And same thing, with the sci-fi I cover. I expect my main characters especially, to change by the end of the novel, regardless of what genre I'm reading. I don't like it when they don't change. Notice I'm saying change and not grow. Uh, I because it's sort of like a difference between, how drama used to be either tragedy or comedy. I expect character arcs to be either uh, growth or regression of some kind. Like they get worse, they become worse people. Like I said, maybe Sam becomes worse. It's kind of, but I don't really see that he did. Um, because most of the things he does, I assume, are things that he always would have done, that he doesn't make a different choice. Um, from what we see at the beginning of the novel, what we know about how his life was before the novel starts versus how he acts in the end, seems the same to me. Evidence to suggest as such is that he was sleeping with his partner's wife, working with his partner, every day, treating him like, like they're friends, or like acquaintance well functioning acquaintances, more like. I'm sorry, you're not friends if you're cheating with their spouse. um I was like, I don't like using that word in this scenario. um but then, like, so he's sleeping with her, but he doesn't really care about her. She like shows up and wants to spend time with him, and like is and he doesn't care about her. He's not even like willing to be there for her when her husband is murdered or anything like that. And then at the end, he's also not going to be there for Bridget. And before it's absolutely certain that he knows that she killed his partner, he doesn't treat Bridget very well. So to me, I'm sort of like, that behavior, that through line of behavior being basically the same, makes me think that, one, he never loved her, or his understanding of how to show you love someone is very messed up, um, and has always been. Or two, he just never he and two, he's just not any different. And I feel like he wants money at the beginning of the novel, he wants money at the end of the novel. Because, yeah, he wants, as he gets money from Bridget, he knows she's lying, about her story because of how she overpaid, for their services. And then later on, when she admits that, like, her real name and everything, he still asks for money. He keeps negotiating for money throughout the book from everyone he can. And then at the end, he wants to keep his money, but gut feels like, "No, I want my money back. I didn't get, the Maltese Falcon." And he's like, "Alright, fine." And then he still keeps $1,000, and gut feels like, "Okay." So, like, he does not change. He so how he treats women doesn't change. How he wants money doesn't change. The guy really, like, there's no growth, and there's no regression. He does not get worse. So like, Sam is the same, and I I get that from maybe like a serial standpoint that would be helpful and everything, but from a novel standpoint, like a singular novel, I expect there to be a character arc, and there is no character arc, and that bothers me. Maybe Bridget has more of a character arc than he does. It's hard to tell though, because she's so dishonest. She lies the whole freaking book. So it's like she's still lying in the climax too. She does, like, I maybe it's that whole thing about, is she lying this time or is she telling the truth? Like, that's the whole novel. You get that. And then at the climax when they're having their conversation, it's like, is she lying again? Or is she being honest? You still have that question. So to me, I'm sort of like, maybe if she's being honest, then maybe she changed. But other than that, I just there's no character arc. No one changes in the novel, and it's I'm sorry, there's a cat tail on my face. And it's frustrating for me personally. I don't like novels that do that. I feel like your characters should change. Not all of them, but your main character. And and I feel like every novel, it needs to do this, and this is part of the reason why I don't necessarily like most series, is because of the fact that they try to keep the character the same throughout without changing. Um, and a most limited run series where you're only going to write a certain amount of novels, they're much better at creating a character arc in them than ones where people are like, I'm just going to write this character forever. I actually feel like one of the only authors who has managed to make his character, his mysteries, um, interesting enough for me, while not necessarily making the main character go through an arc every time, but still, yeah, she wants to do things I don't want her to do, but still have growth over the series, is probably the Dresden Files by Jim Butcher. Like, for one thing, I like Harry. Like, I don't like Sam, and because he's too cynical for me, and because of the way he behaves with people, I don't I'm not even saying like the way if he's mean to people that the woke would consider, oh, that's terrible. No, I don't even mean that. I mean, he's just not a nice person. And I'm okay with flawed characters too. I'm not necessarily like, yeah, that's fine. Like, but I don't know, it's kinda hard. I don't like Sam, so if this was a series of novels, and like, oh, there's multiple Sam Spade novels, um, I won't read anymore, because it's not just the world you build to create a series that people want to read, it's the character that you create that we're gonna follow. So if I don't like the character, I'm not gonna keep reading. Um, and that's part of the problem with, I would say, the Expanse series. Uh, the Expanse series is partially mystery as well, by the way. Um, at least the first one is definitely, and it even has Miller, our hard-boiled detective. I got so far in that series, and then I just got really tired of them adding more and more characters to follow. By which I mean, so the first novel is Miller and uh, Holden, which are great characters, absolutely lovable, worth watching characters, worth following. And then it was the second novel they added Bobby and Pax, maybe, and then and and maybe Christian as well. And then, which another novel they added Anna, the religious woman, like she's like a clergy woman or whatever. And I hate that character. I can't follow her at all. She's so fake seeming, so constructed. And I was like, I'm tired of this. I don't want to follow this anymore. Versus something like The Magicians, as flawed as Quentin is, I love reading about Quentin and his life. It's not just because of the world of The Magicians, with Great Bills and Fillory. It's Quentin himself. I like Quentin. I like watching him try to understand what will make him happy, which is his big pursuit. But when it comes to Sam, I'm like, I don't value the things that Sam Spade values at all. I Partially because I think the only thing he values is money. Like I feel like that's his main motivating factor, which to me is uninteresting. And the fact that that does not change by the end of the novel makes me just frustrated and not want to read anymore. Perhaps you like him. Perhaps you like the world as well. And that's totally cool. That's fine. It's just, I'm not interested. Which is funny because there's books like Fight Club where the narrator is so flawed and intensely problematic. And as a person, like the things he does, I still love him. And then same thing with like Alex from Clockwork Orange. Very interesting to read about Alex, and sometimes manage to feel incredibly sad for Alex, despite the fact that Alex has done horrific things. I just don't feel anything for Sam Spade as a character. I I don't care. Like he seems so superfluous to like I feel like he's just there so we can follow the narrative and for this mystery. And I feel like that's not helpful to me because I want a character that I really care about and latch on to. That's one of the reasons why mystery TV shows, the whole setup of who you follow throughout the show is so important. It's the make and break of whether or not the show continues, not just the world they build. So, for example, Castle, Lucifer, Psych. Psych's a really fun one. Sean is highly flawed, incredibly flawed, very hedonistic in his behavior, and thus sort of he's immature, and at times you get really frustrated with him, but he's still likable. He does some really horrible things throughout the show, but he still ends up being uh, likable and interesting and growing. And it's it's funny because I feel like there is no risk taken with Sam Spade as a character design. And I and it kind of drives me crazy because I'm like, he's just a man of his times who is cynical about human nature and doesn't grow at all. And you would think I would be talking about like House or something, but House does grow over the course of the show, and does still do interesting things every once in a while from a character perspective that you're not sure about that cynicism. Is it fully true or not? Um, but I don't get any kind of duality there with Sam, which is why I this is probably why I didn't really like this novel. Like, more than anything, it was probably Sam not being interesting, which is saying a lot, I would say. Um, but, maybe you like it better. I'm not gonna, uh, discount the impact that it's had on mystery as a genre. It's huge. I absolutely I understand its impact on the private eye prototype and the MacGuffin. My god, is it one of the biggest examples of the MacGuffin ever. So I won't say that, uh, that you should ignore it because it is, like, a huge mark in the history of mystery as a genre. So definitely worth reading just to know the influence about it, and I'll be honest with you, I think I like the movie better. I might It might be because Humphrey Bogart's performance is much more engaging, to me anyway. But that's my main opinion on Dashiell Hammett's The Maltese Falcon. Kind of a letdown. Um, if you disagree with me, make a big long comment in the comment section. I will try to read it and reply in honesty, like, and just don't call me names or something. Because it's like it's fine that if you love this novel and you think I'm wrong, I'm not gonna be offended if you feel that way. Just don't, like, make it personal, I would say. To each his own. If you love this novel, I know this whole spiel was probably a major disappointment to you, and I'm sorry about this. But that is just how I felt about it, which is funny because I wasn't absolutely certain what I was going to say before I started this live stream. I knew there were topics that I wanted to hit, and then I kinda worked out how I felt about the novel live, so you might be able to convince me differently in comments. I'm totally cool with that too. Um, but let's go over everything. So next month's book club is Grady Hendrix' Horror Store. I'm really looking forward to this one because it's sort of, one of those things that is, like, etymological, and I love etymological fiction. And it's funny too because the whole thing that this it starts out, it says, "This is not in relation to a real furniture store. Forget about the fact that there's several clear references to IKEA." um, and how they do business. But I'm excited for that one. It's October 25th, 3 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. You can be on that live stream with me if you read the book and you ask me to be on the live stream. And in the links below, there's a link to buy my novel, link to tip me, link to join my Discord. There's also a link to my locals, and if you join my locals as a paying member, you get access to exclusive stuff like the exclusive live streams that happen on Sundays, plus exclusive stuff only available on locals. You also get that stuff if you go to my Discord. If you join my Discord, I pretty much put everything that is exclusive in there as well. And the schedule for the week tomorrow at noon is a Hogwarts Legacy exclusive live stream on what's it called? I have a name for it. Alex Ball Trades Rumble channel. Following that is the Gaming Reveal live stream. I have already spun the wheel and released the wheel spin for the exclusive people. Monday night, nothing. Tuesday night, Baldur's Gate 3. I can't remember which playthrough. I think it's Kevin. And then Wednesday is October 1st, which is the start of Spooktober. All the Spooktober live streams have been released, and I will be starting Resident Evil 6, 10 Deaths, and then probably after that live stream, because if it goes like it did last time I played Resident Evil 6, I will die really rapidly, and we will move on to Resident Evil 7. And that is happening Wednesday, Thursday, and I don't know if it's happening on Saturday. It is Saturday. So every time I had a normal gaming live stream, it's now replaced with a Spooktober live stream, except for Sundays. I'm still playing Hogwarts Legacy. So that is everything. Thank you guys so much for joining me, and I will see you next time.